mga balita at impormasyon. www.radyo.inquirer.com.
Welcome to INQ&A. The Inquirer question and answer program comes to you every Tuesday. We sit down with a leading newsmaker every week to discuss the issues of the day. And tonight, we have a very special guest. You are, of course, listening to us on Radyo Inquirer 990. You are watching us live on Facebook as well as on Inquirer 990 television on digital TV. You can also follow us on the different Inquirer social media platforms like FireChat, Twitter, Viber, and we are, of course, also covered by the Philippine Daily Inquirer and Inquirer.net. My name is John Neri. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Inquirer.net. And with me is my co-host, the Chief of Reporters of Inquirer.net, Christine Sabilio.
Thank you, John, and good evening to everyone watching us tonight. Our guest for tonight has extensive background in public service and business. He used to be the Dean of the Far Eastern University's Institute of Law. Before he joined public service, he served as the CEO of Comelec Philippine Properties and President, and he became President of Shang Properties. He was also a member of the Consultative Commission on Charter Change under former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Ladies and gentlemen, Commission on Elections Chair Andy Bautista. Welcome, sir.
Magandang gabi, John and Christine, at good evening po sa lahat ng mga nanonood at nakikinig.
Thank you, Chair, for making time for this. I know it just came from Bangko Sentral. It's a busy day, another busy day. But we have a lot of questions already.
Yes.
Let's get started. All of a sudden, you're back in the news, but apparently for the wrong reasons. Ano ba itong National Privacy Commission and what is its recommendation about?
Yung nga dyan, medyo nakakabigla, no? Na yung New Year ko medyo nasira dahil nga dito sa naging decision ng ating National Privacy Commission na sinasabi na meron daw pagkakamali na ginawa ang Comelec at I being the head of the agency is the one that is responsible, no? So, well, this is in conjunction with the so-called Comeleaks, no? That in March 27, 2016, there were hackers who were able to penetrate the Comelec website and were able to download certain information, no? So, immediately after that, the Comelec and bank took steps in order to mitigate the damage and the information that was taken. As we know, John and Christine, itong hacking is not just a local but an international phenomenon na nangyayari ito sa buong bansa, na kahit na ang pinaka sophisticated, pinaka advanced na mga sistema tulad ng kahit na US government, no, nahahack pa rin yan, no? Kung kaya't medyo nabigla ako na doon sa naging desisyon ng ating National Privacy Commission, imbes na ang focus is ma-apprehend yung mga hackers, parang ang nangyayari pa ngayon, pinaparusahan yung mga hacked tulad namin na siyang mga biktima.
Sir Andy, marami pa kami mga tanong tungkol sa ibang issue, no? For instance, we want to talk about proposed amendments to the election code and so on, but let's spend the next several minutes talking first about the Comelec leaks and then the NPC decision. May naganap na hacking. So everyone agrees on that, ano? Kaninong responsibilidad po 'yun?
Well, yun na nga, no, na ang aming sinasabi is that yung pag-hack ngayon nangyayari sa buong mundo, na kahit na anong pinaka-sophisticated na sistema, nahahack pa rin. Kaya kahit na anong security system ang ilagay mo, because nga of the technological advancements and that yung mga hackers natin are also going up to date and being very I guess ingenious, na nakakapasok sila, mahirap talagang pigilan itong hacking, no? Pero masasabi naman namin is that before the hacking happened, that our websites were being maintained in accordance with best practices.
Mhm.
Okay? Pangalawa, nung nangyari po yung hacking, ang dami po namin kaagad na ginawa in order nga to mitigate the damage in
Mhm.
respect of the hacking. And in fact, we set up a voter care hotline. No? Ito ay isang hotline para kung sino mang mga botante natin ang naperwisyo dahil sa hacking na ito, pwede silang tumawag at sabihin kung ano yung naging problema at pwede natin silang tulungan. No? And since we set up that hotline last April 2016, up to today, wala pa namang tumatawag in this hotline. No? Pero hindi naman namin, kumbaga, we do not belittle the issue of data privacy, and we do not fault the National Privacy Commission for recommending additional measures that would improve the security of the Comelec website, which are well taken. Ang medyo talagang ikinasasama lang ng aking loob, bakit unang-una meron pang recommendation na dapat daw maimbestiga ang Comelec na baka daw merong negligence at meron pang potential criminal liability. At pangalawa, bakit ako ang pinagtutuunan ng pansin, no? Sa kanilang desisyon, sinabi ng National Privacy Commission na yung aming IT department na siyang talagang ang frontliners naman sa isang website o sa aming IT concerns ay wala naman daw kapabayaan o walang negligence. Pero bakit yung head of agency ngayon ang kanilang iniipit at kumbaga sinasabing ako daw ang merong kakulangan sa aking mga gawain. And that's what I thought was overboard and unfair.
Kung hindi ako nagkakamali, the criminal liabilities, parang 3 to 6 months in prison, parang ganon, no? Tapos up to $500,000 pesos
Fine.
ba in fines, no? Yung sa civil, ano? Pero I think the first time you received the news, sinabi mo nga na the Commission on Elections is a collegial body, no? Pero their recommendation is kayo lang, no? How do you understand their decision making? Why was that their recommendation?
Yung nga dyan ang hindi ko masyado maintindihan. In fact, I would like to encourage everyone to please read their decision. No? It's a 35-page decision, but I don't think it was, number one, well written and well thought out. No? So, pero para maganda, para din naman sabihin, to be fair, I think dapat lahat basahin ito, lalo-lalo na ating mga law students at mga lawyers, because to me, it's a very instructive material. No? Tama ka dyan na may mga sinasabi sila na pagkukulang ko daw. But sabi ko nga, for example, yung appointment of a data protection officer, which is provided for in the Data Privacy Act. That I cannot do alone. I have to do that together with the other members of the commission. Kaya hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit, again, sa akin linalagay lahat yan. No? And then second nga, they did not think that there was negligence on the part of the Comelec ITD. Who, as I said, they are the forefront of maintaining our website. I came in as Comelec chairman in May 2015, at a time when the website had already been established, when the operating protocols had already been approved. At kumbaga, meron ng mga ginagawa. And at that time, in fact, yung Comelec website was given an award by the Office of the President because of the iRehistro project. So wala naman talagang problema eh. But ang sinasabi nila, dapat daw, kahit na wala problema, dapat daw pinagtutuunan ng pansin. No? But you also have to remember, when I came in May 2015, that was 1 year before the elections. And really there was a steep learning curve for me to follow in order to learn the various components of the elections. And at that time, yung website, wala namang problema eh. So, ako naman, I had faith and confidence in the way that our ITD, our IT department was operating the website. In which case, talaga namang, hindi ko, it was not to me one of the problem areas. But all of a sudden nga, when there was a problem, and there was a real problem, we tried to do our best in order to mitigate whatever damage or whatever perwisyo ang maano sa ating mga botante. And yet, ang tingin ng National Privacy Commission, kulang pa rin yun. But sabi ko nga, kukulang man yun, bakit nila pinawalang sala yung aming IT department at bakit ako lang bilang chairman ang kanilang parang pinagtutuunan ng kanilang punteriya, no, sa pangyayaring ito.
Sure. Besides not having a data protection officer, would you agree with the NPC when they said that the Comelec did not have basic data privacy principles? Like, you did not categorize the levels of how data should be protected, I guess. Was the commission already doing something like that, or it's because you really did not have a person to do that?
Well, two things, Christine. No? First is that we already had an ISSP, which is like a program that was passed by the Comelec and Bank in 2011, but which is renewed every 2 years. No, which essentially provides the guidelines that are this is what the IT department follows in respect of ensuring that we are operating our website and our other IT policies in accordance with best practices. Number two, and here's the other problem, no? The Data Privacy Act was passed in 2012. Okay? And under the Data Privacy Act of 2012, the Privacy Commission was supposed to come up with their implementing rules and regulations within 90 days from the time that the act was passed. So they should have passed the implementing rules sometime in 2013. But of course, you can't blame them because there was nobody appointed to the National Privacy Commission until March 2016, which is more than 3 years after the law was passed. No? Now, also very maliwanag doon sa batas na nakalagay that the standards that are provided in the Data Privacy Act are going to be implemented 1 year after the IRR is promulgated. At yung IRR was only promulgated in August 2016. And they became, they were published in August 2016 and they were supposed to be followed starting September 2016. No? And the hacking of the Comelec website happened in March 2016. So, yun nga, meron pang issue of an ex post facto law na parang it is being given retroactive effect. Tapos ito pa nakakatawa, John and Christine, no, na ang nakalagay dun sa implementing rules ng National Privacy Commission for this law is that pati sa kanilang implementing rules, sinasabi nilang every agency, be it in the public or the private sector, you're given 1 year within which to comply with the act. So 1 year from the time that they pass the implementing rules, which is also provided for in the law. Ngayon kami sa Comelec, bakit? Sinabi nila in the decision, no, that the law was passed in 2012. As far as they're concerned now, we should follow it already starting 2013.
Is it possible, possibly because of the scope, the scale of the data breach, some 75 million records and so on? Parang this is, I mean, you have to hand it to them also. It's a small commission. They're new, and they took on a constitutional officer mismo, no?
Well, pero yung John siguro parang ewan ko ba, parang ginagamit ako para magpapansin, no, na before us there were already several government agencies that had been hacked, whose websites had been hacked. In fact, we think there are about 20, no? Pag-asa, Office of the President, all. And natanong ko, have they investigated these hackings? Yes, it's true, no, na medyo maraming data ang nakuha from the Comelec website, but also I think we have to put that in the proper context, no. We just heard, for example, that yung sa Yahoo, 1 billion accounts were hacked. If you look at, right now there are instances wherein it's the US government itself which is complaining that another foreign government is hacking their elections, no. So if the US government, if all these big corporations in IT whose security features have been compromised, ano pa kami sa Comelec? And we don't have, to be honest, I think enough resources within which to really secure our website properly. And that's why we look for guidance from a regulatory agency like the National Privacy Commission to tell us what we can do in order to improve our operation. So, yung wala kaming problema dyan eh. Ako, ang problema ko lang talaga, bakit naman meron pang recommendation ng criminal liability? Eh, sabi ko nga, kami naman ay victim dito. And we didn't like to be hacked. There was no malice, there was no ill will on our part. And yet, parang yun ang pinapalabas nila sa kanilang naging desisyon.
Sir, how is the process? I mean, can you appeal it? How do you go about it?
Well, according to the rules, we can file a motion for reconsideration on their ruling, and that's what we're going to do. Together with the Office of the Solicitor General, we had a meeting yesterday. We will be filing an MR. But, of course, makikita nyo naman, medyo, na sila palaban na, no? So, we're also looking at remedies. Well, we will go to court in case they deny our MR.
Sir, we have a question here from our print reporter, Julie Aurelio. Her question is...
Suki natin yan si Julie.
Yes, nagka-cover ng Comelec. She asked, if you think you are not to blame for the Comelec fiasco, then who in the Comelec should be responsible for it and why?
Right. Well, mahirap na tanong yan. As I said, no, for example, kung yung nangyari sa US government, no, na hack daw sila, are they looking for blame within the US government, or are they going after the hacker, which is that foreign government which is supposed to be? So ako, at this point, I don't want to pass on the blame. I think what we're saying is that Comelec as a whole, in March 2016, tried its best to secure our website, but at the same time, there were these ill-willed hackers who were able to penetrate our firewalls and were able to download documents. Ako, dapat siguro ang pagtuunan natin ng pansin is yung pagparusa doon sa mga hacker as opposed to ang pinaparusahan yung mga nahack.
Sure, she has another question lang. With this latest issue, with only you being blamed, how is your relationship with the other commissioners, given that it's been strained since last year? Are they openly supporting you on this issue? Well,
we had our regular and bank meeting this morning. I think some have been very kind to have supported me, and I can, for example, say Commissioner Arthur Lim has been very supportive. But alam mo, kanya-kanyang posisyon yan eh. And ako naman, well, kung ano yung tama, I hope susuportahan, basta kabubuti ng Comelec. Kung naman ako, meron pagkakamali din, I have no issue with other commissioners taking a different line. But in respect of this, as I said, ako ang feeling ko, ang Comelec ang biktima, at tapos ngayon, ako personally, ang ginagawang biktima ng National Privacy Commission.
Do you see any hidden hands here, or maybe hidden motives?
Well, John, mahirap na tanong yan. Ako, I think, in the end, as I said, the truth shall all set us free. I think in the coming weeks, perhaps coming months, it will show if there is really a hidden hand behind this.
Okay, maybe we need to separate two related issues, or seemingly related issues. One is the hacking of the voter data. Ito yung March 27, yung tinatawag na Comelec. Tapos the other one, ito yung part of the complaint ni Senator Bongbong Marcos, allegedly hacking of the server, Smartmatic. Are they in fact related?
Well, the National Privacy Commission itself said that they're not related. In fact, they validated the results of the elections in May. No? So, and kami then, we believe that really the integrity of the elections in May 2016 has not been compromised because of this hacking. Because this hacking only was able to get data from the voters, but it did not have any effect on the results of the May elections.
Pero hindi yata masyadong alam yan, ano? Yung parang it's easy to mistake or conflate yung Comelec with in March with the alleged tampering nung May. Ano pa masasabi niyo?
Well, dyan na pwede pumasok yung tinatawag mong hidden hand or hidden agenda, no? But as I said, well, maybe here you can ask the National Privacy Commission itself. But I think they've been very clear to say that really there is no link between the results of the May elections and the hacking of the voters' data.
The commission recently received an international award for basically for the integrity of the 2016 elections. Can you talk a little more about that?
That's right. Well, after the May 2016 elections, we did receive a lot of commendation from our partners, specifically the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, PPCRV, DAMFREL. They said that the 2016 elections were the best managed as compared to 2013 and 2010. No? Aside from that, the Carter Center, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, this is the NGO of former President Jimmy Carter, also said that they believe that 2016 was like a watershed insofar as Philippine elections is concerned. No? But aside from that, itong last December 2016, there was ito yung tinatawag nilang Oscars of electoral bodies all over the world. No, it is sponsored by the International Center for Parliamentary Studies, which is based out of London, and this is an NGO that works with the UN, and they try to recognize the efforts of election management bodies all over the world. No? And for 2016, we were one of the shortlisted finalists for the Electoral Management Body of the Year. So parang Best Picture, if you will liken it to an Oscar. And I think we went up against Mexico and Georgia, in which was used to be part of the USSR. And we were given that award. Also, we were also given the award for election management. So, kung yung isa Best Picture, ito parang Best Director. And again, we went up against, I think, Palestine. We went, ito yung mga countries that also held elections in 2016. So we were also given these awards. And then we were also given also two other awards, yung accessibility and also minority participation. So ito parang yung mga best costume, best cinematography, yung mga ganyan. So all in all, we got 2 major awards and 2 minor awards. And so to me talaga, this is very positive because kumbaga not only local, but we're getting international recognition for what we did in 2016.
So just going back to the Comelec's NPC issue, the NPC suggested a couple of corrective measures. Moving forward, what are you doing now? And are you following the recommendations of the NPC?
Yun ang sinasabi ko, no, na we really feel that yung mga recommendations na yan are very constructive. And in fact, during the Embank meeting this morning, we decided, yes, we will be following all of these directives because we think that these are really for the good of Comelec and for the country. No? So we already appointed an acting data protection officer, and that we will be having a workshop on January 18 to 20 to thresh out the various issues that have been raised because of the NPC decision. So kami walang problema dyan eh. Kung yung mga best practices we want to follow, ang sabi ko nga, ang sakit lang talaga is why did it have to have that kulatilla na merong criminal liability? At kumbaga, bakit ako lang ang parang pinag-iinitan?
So there's supposed to be a privacy impact assessment. Will you share with that or at least an excerpt of that with the public later on?
Without a doubt. Kami naman, we try to be very transparent in the way we do things. Whatever reports we have, we want to share. Alam ko na si Secretary Andanar was saying that we should make public kung ano man yung aming mga investigations. Wala kaming problema dyan. There was an internal investigation done, but there was also independent investigations that were conducted by the DOST as well as the NBI. And we are open to sharing that with the public. No? So, and I think that's how it should be.
Okay.
Chairman Andy, some poll watchdogs say that baka ito will rise to the level of an impeachable offense? Anong tingin? I mean, dating dean no, of a law school, a master's in law from Harvard. Anong tingin mo dito?
Well, yung nung nabasa ko yan, sabi ko nga, go ahead, no? Kasi, well, there are various grounds for an impeachment. I don't know if they will classify this as my betrayal of the public trust. But as I said, ako naman, itong website na ito, nadatnan ko na lang nung ako'y na-appoint nung May 2015 at yung mga operating protocols na yan ay nandyan na nung ako'y pumasok, no? At kung ang palagay doon ng ibang tao ay meron pa ring betrayal of the public trust, okay lang sa akin, because to me, I think it will also be an opportunity for me to clear my name and as well as clear as Comelec's name in respect of this development.
We're gonna take a break shortly, but we have some of our viewers from Riyadh and from Bahrain. Baka you can say something to them.
Hi, magandang ano ba sa kanila dyan? Umaga or gabi? I was in Riyadh actually during the overseas Filipino voting. So si Ambassador Tago at that time, and again marami tayong mga kababayan sa Riyadh. So kamusta po kayo dyan?
Okay.
We're gonna take a break. We'll be back in a minute. Thank you.
In these changing times, globalized, anytime, anywhere, we'll always be there by your side, listening and telling a story that truly is worthy to be told and heard across the oceans and seas. We are driven by balanced news, fearless views, in the spirit of fairness and truth. Someone you can trust, who is just when you ask is a must. Cause there is an inquirer in all of us. Now hear me saying, whoa, 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 whoa. There is an inquirer in all of us.
Kayo ba'y mahilig manood ng Korean novelas, Taiwanese, Japanese at iba pa tulad ng Jewel in the Palace,
It depends, no? And I always tell my students in law school, 90% of law school questions are answerable by it depends. It depends dun sa, siyempre, yung complication ng case as to whether or not it is being pushed. Kasi itong problema sa atin ang dami kasong isinasampa. Alam nyo, ang dami pa naming mga kaso 2007, 2010, and this is about mga kagawad, barangay chairman, mga councilor, and alam mo, mahirap talaga mag-prioritize, no? But specifically on that Robredo versus or Villaferte versus Robredo, I remember kasi si former Congressman Luis Villaferte wrote to us, and we did take it up, and I think there was already a response to his letter.
Okay. How about, just for the record, no? Yung Rojas versus Binay, wala na yun.
Well, again, yung Rojas versus Binay is pending with the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. At siguro dapat din klaruhin to dyan, no?
Okay, let's do that.
Pagka for vice presidential and presidential candidates, okay, pagka na-proclaim na sila, jurisdiction is taken out of Comelec and is now with the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, which also happens to be the Supreme Court. So for example, itong kaso ni former Senator Bongbong Marcos against Vice President Robredo is already with the Supreme Court as the
Okay.
Presidential Electoral Tribunal.
Mhm.
Ang Comelec is just providing assistance. So kunyari merong kailangan datos, merong tanong ang ating PET, pupunta sila sa Comelec. Pero ang decision dyan is with them. So same thing, no? Merong kaso si former MMDA Chairman Tolentino labang kay Senator Laila de Lima. Again, that is pending with the Senate Electoral Tribunal.
Okay.
So hindi na Comelec ang mag-decision dyan. It's already the Senate Electoral Tribunal.
So for Comelec, it's the local position.
Local positions ang amin. Yan, yung mga mayor, mga governor, or mga, pati yung mga barangay officials nasa
Sir,
sa Comelec.
how is the process for that? Like, just briefly.
Well, what happens is that there is a complaint filed with the Comelec, and it is usually taken up by a division of Comelec, because Comelec is made up of 3 divisions: a first division, a second division, and the Comelec and Bank. So we are seven members all in all. 3 members comprise the first division, 3 members comprise the second division, and then 7 members, including myself,
Okay.
comprise the NBank. So, nagkakadesisyon muna dun sa division level, and if the aggrieved party or losing party wants to file a motion for reconsideration, then that is filed with the Comelec and Bank. Tapos, pag hindi pa sila happy doon, they can go to the Supreme Court.
Yung sa nabanggit mo na rin, Marcos versus Robredo. So nasa Supreme Court na as PET. Ano nang status nun? Where are we now? Are we expecting a decision soon?
Hindi pa siguro. Well, ang latest decision nga niyan is that pinayagan na kami ng PET na ibalik yung mga makina sa ating vendor na nag-supply, no, Smartmatic. Kasi itong mga makina natin in 2016 were merely leased.
Yeah.
Inarkila lang natin ito, at sa aming kontrata with Smartmatic, pag hindi natin ito ibalik by December 1, yung option to purchase na nakalagay sa kontrata ay matitrigger. Kung kaya't paragi naming pinapaalala sa ating Supreme Court na kailangan nating aksyonan ito kaagad, no? So finally, in November, binigyan na kami ng pahintulot ng Supreme Court na ibalik yung mga makina.
That seems like a procedural setback for the complainant.
Not really, because
Diba?
again, yun namang datos. Hindi naman
It's with
talaga
you.
yan nasa makina, kundi nasa SD card.
Chip, yeah.
So
So you have the SD card.
Walang impact yan sa protest ni Senator
It will not.
Marcos.
At saka, John and Christine, dapat natin alalahanin, yun ang ganda ng ating sistema, no, na there are many ways by which you can verify the data. We used 92,509 machines for the May 2016 elections. Each machine was able to print an election return. Okay? And itong election return na yon, if you add all the votes of those 92,509 election returns, then that should be the same number that should have come out in the in our official tally. At itong election returns, there were 30 hard copies that were printed, given to all political parties, given to the candidates, given to media. So that's all over the place. Number 2, another innovation that we did for May 2016 was that we had a website wherein we uploaded each and every election return soft copy. So that again, every Filipino in Dubai, in Riyadh, or in Italy could also make his or her own tally of these numbers. So there are many ways by which you can really audit yung results ng 2016 elections.
Is it possible for in an automated vote for cheating to happen only at one level, but let's say not at the level of the president, but at the level of the vice president?
Again, maybe kasi ang sinasabi ko is that really sa automated election mahirap dayain yung yung parang nangyayari dati, yung sinasabi na dagdag bawas, where in the votes of one candidate, you're able to transfer to another candidate, which to me really is the cardinal sin. It's the biggest sin in an election because talagang you are subverting the will of the people. There has been no proof whatsoever that that has been done in an automated election. Now, is there still retail fraud? Kumbaga, nagkakadayaan doon sa presinto. Sa totoo lang, sa tingin ko meron pa rin. No? I think there were reports made na sinasabi minsan sa isang presinto, yung mga botante, dahil controlled ng isang warlord, pinapauwi na lang. No? At sila na lang ang nag-shade ng mga balot at pinapasok nila doon sa makina. So we have reports of that. But masasabi ko at this point, yung wide scale or yung talagang malawakang dayaan na nangyari, wala pong nangyari niyan sa 2016.
Sir, question.
Meron ako isang tanong from Twitter kay Verhel Pahariliaga. Chairman, pwede po bang magka-snap election sa Vice President?
Well, again, depende yan sa magiging desisyon ng ating Korte Suprema. No? Pero parang hindi yata pwede yun. Ang feeling ko is either they will decide to uphold or if they believe otherwise, then they will do so. Pero yung
yun lang.
Yung magkakaroon ng snap, unless feeling nila talagang inconclusive yung numbers, in which case, I guess it's possible na sabihin nila, okay, para ano na lang, para hindi tayo sigurado, magkaroon na lang tayo ng snap elections. Although, kailangan kasi meron silang basihan yan sa batas.
So I think before we go to the amendments of the Omnibus Election Code, there's a question from Ben Silok from Facebook. What type of cybersecurity does Comelec have? Is there any upgrade or update done to secure Comelec database?
Well, sabi ko nga, no, bago nagkaroon ng hacking, yun namang aming cybersecurity was in accordance with best practices dito sa Pilipinas, no. In fact, yun din ang aming sinasabi tungkol nga doon sa batas, yung Data Privacy Act, dahil hindi maliwanag ano yung standard. And I think that it behooves upon the National Privacy Commission to be more specific as to what they think government agencies as well as private entities, what standard we should use, no, in order to make sure nga that the possibility of hacking is minimized. May mga nagtatanong sa akin, can we now ensure na hindi na magkakaroon ng hacking? Sabi ko nga, kahit na ang pamahalaan ng Estados Unidos at ang Facebook, Yahoo, Twitter, Google, pati yan nahahack. Ano pa kaya tayo, no? So mahirap talagang siguraduhin na hindi ka ma-hack. But at the same time, dapat naman talaga ay ayusin at kumbaga gamitin yung mga best practices para we can minimize nga the chances of hacking occurring.
So recently, you spoke about wanting to amend the Omnibus Election Code, which was 1985 pa. It was the Batasang Pamansa 881. What exactly are the provisions that you want to amend?
Well, Christine, marami, no? But yung general thinking nga is that when the Omnibus Election Code was passed in 1985, at that time talaga, ang mentality ng tao, manual pa yung botohan natin. At that time, the population of the Philippines was, I think, just 30 million. So, ibang-iba na talaga ngayon ang ating halalan. And here, we have to adopt international best practices, but to make sure that they are in accord with how elections are being conducted in the Philippines. No? So, marami po kaming mga suggested amendments at marami ring mga batas or mga bills na sinasampa sa ating Kongreso at Senado wherein we want to change certain provisions. Pero ang gusto sana namin is more a wholesale, a real revision of the law so that each and every provision would agree with each other.
Who are the lawmakers you're working with?
Well, right now, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reform is Senator De Lima, and her counterpart in the House is Congressman Sherwin Tugna. So these are the two that we're working with. At yan nga, well, I can identify certain, for example, itong issue of campaign finance. Malaking bagay yan kasi yung mga limits na linagay sa ating batas, talaga makikita yung it's not anymore realistic and it's not anymore practical, no. And I'll give you a specific example. Pagka presidente, well, it's 10 pesos for every registered voter and then 5 pesos for the political party. So since we have 54 million registered voters, sabi mo ng 540 million plus yung 5 pesos, mga sabi mo ng 270. So about 800 million for a presidential candidate. Ngayon, mukhang malaki na yun, no? Although anecdotally, parati nating naririnig, bilyon ang ginagastos, no, for presidential.
Ads pa lang.
Ads pa lang and all. Pero mas nakakatuwa ito pag tinignan mo sa local, eh. Kasi for example, yung sa mayor or governor, it's only 3 pesos for every registered voter. So for example, the mayor of Angeles City, there are 160,000 registered voters. 3 times 160,000 is 480,000. You mean to tell me that the candidates for mayor of Angeles City only spent 480,000? You know, sa local talagang nakikita mo.
So you want the ceilings to be more
Realistic. Oo. At ito, I'm calling on Congress because this is also for their own good. No?
To also avoid violating the law for the
law.
for the politicians.
For the politicians. No? Number 2, itong issue nga nung premature campaigning. Diba? Because right now,
I remember when you entered.
yeah, na you file your certificate of candidacy October, but your campaign expenses will only be counted starting the campaign period, which is in February. So from October to February, you can spend as much as you want and it will be not counted against you. Mali yata yun.
So you want that included?
That has to be included again, so that to be fair, no?
What about violations of the reporting rules? So for instance, nag-submit ka na ng statement of yung campaign expenditures, tapos hindi pala lahat na nakalista. Tapos later it turns out that businessman A is the main donor pero hindi naka do our laws have the enough teeth to bite?
Well, dyan, pag ganyan, kailangan may magpa-file ng complaint. In fact, kaninang NBank again, nag-submit na yung aming campaign finance unit ng parang preliminary list of, at least on the record, sino yung nag-violate. Parang, doon pa lang sa kanilang submission, they overspent. Okay, without anybody sort of like filing a complaint, no? So meron ng ganyan.
Okay.
But usually what happens is kung merong losing candidate, they have to provide us evidence na talagang there was overspending because ang ayaw din ng Comelec is that we will be seen as partial or biased towards a particular candidate. If we motu proprio parang go against especially a winner, baka sabihin that we are being discriminating, which we don't want. So kami naman, if they have any evidence of overspending which they think is against the law, by all means they should file cases with the Comelec.
Sir, we have another question from Facebook from Jerome Felipe. Why is the Comelec allowing the substitution of candidates in any position even if the original candidate has not passed away? Should there be more stricter rules in substitution of candidates?
Parang may hugot yung tanong.
Baka kamag-anak na.
Well, the simple answer to that is because the law, yung Omnibus Election Code, allows it.
Sa amendments ninyo, do you want to...
Well, maybe
is that a loophole?
Pero nga, maybe we should make it stricter. Tama siya na minsan talaga, nagiging strategy to eh. Ang ginagawa minsan, ang candidate na finifield nila sa umpisa, si X, just to find out kung sino yung mga ibang kandidato. And then later on, isa substitute. So parang nagiging strategy. So perhaps we should, parang ang nangyayari is iniikutan. At siguro nga dapat maging mas stricto yung batas tungkol dito sa substitution.
Ano pa ba ibang proposed revisions ninyo?
Well, ito nga, I think it has got more to do nga with the fact that talagang automated na yung ating elections. No? For example, may mga provision tayo nagsasabi we have to inform our voters through mail or telex. Mga ganyan pang pag-iisip, no?
Okay.
Or kaya yung mga pagpo-post ng mga voters list sa election offices, yung hard copy pa rin, no? As opposed to using technology. Yung use of mga polling centers, no? We want to be more inclusive. We want to make our polling centers more accessible, especially to our senior citizens and to our persons with disability. Ang problema ngayon, nakatuon pa rin ang pansin sa ating mga public school. Pero yung mga public school natin, hindi nag-level up eh. So, bakit hindi natin magamit yung mga ibang infrastructure within society para nga maging mas madali bumoto para sa
Like
ating mga
malls,
botante.
yes.
Like malls.
Yeah.
Alam mo, when I was in the US to observe the US elections, I was surprised there was even a church that was being used for their elections.
Tapos hindi pa holiday, no?
Hindi pa holiday.
You really
Tapos
have to
yung
go out
pa,
of your way,
nakalagay pa sa ating na within 30 meters dapat daw walang nagbebenta ng pagkain sa isang polling center. Pag tignan mo yung ating mga public schools, lahat naman ang daming mga karinderya, mga turo-turo, grocery na nagbebenta. So talagang it's being violated eh. So ako, imbes na mangyari yan, dapat palitan na lang natin yung batas. Let's make it more up to date. And as I said, let's make use of modern day conveniences para nga makatulong sa ating mga botante.
How about the digital space, Chair? Walang limits doon.
Yeah.
Is it mature enough for you to recommend spending limits or
Excellent
Online
question,
ads,
John.
right?
Yan,
How will
kasi
you-
right now, we can only monitor yung mga ads that are being placed with
TV,
large
radio,
TV,
traditional
radio,
media.
and of course, TV, radio,
Print.
they have to give receipts. Pero ngayon, as we know, ang daming nangyayari na mga blogger, mga website, mga social media practitioners na siyang tumutulong sa ating mga kandidato. No? So I think we also have to come up with a rule as to how we can regulate, again, social media. Na, when you look at 2016, to me really, social media was the game changer for the 2016 elections.
hindi ba yung debates which you
Well,
organized?
again,
Yes.
thank you, John, for saying that. Yeah,
Huh?
well, the debates plus social media, because as you know, together with the debates, ang lakas ng social media presence. In fact, we were cited by a US NGO na yung dami ng posts, I think 303 million
Wow.
during the first debate that was sponsored by the Inquirer
And GMA.
and GMA. Makikita mo talagang game changer yung debate, but also because
There was
of
social media.
social media that was present.
That's
And I think
interesting.
again, this is something that will already be with us forever, no turning back. So we also have to think about rules and regulations that would regulate social media.
Maybe one more question about proposed amendments. Do you have anything, kasi, okay, I can understand, more realistic spending limits, but that also means you're actually favoring those with money. Are you proposing provisions that will allow less moneyed candidates?
Or maybe cap. I remember there was a PCIJ report on that. Comparing it, like for example, the US, if there's a cap, parang it would make campaign financing accessible to, the people and make the candidates accountable to the people as well. Hindi yung mga big businessmen lang.
Do you have anything?
No, that's correct. Well, again, no, I think yes and no. The cap is important. No, that dapat there has to be a cap, because just because you are wealthy does not necessarily mean that you will win. No, because if you're also not wealthy but able to get support
From a lot of people.
then you can counterbalance whatever wealth your opponent would have. No, so I think the key is to make sure that we have realistic caps. But one good thing also that they're doing in the US nga is maybe we should also have caps on what a donor
Yeah, can give.
can give. No? So you want to make it
$2,000,
more retail.
Mhm.
So that, as I said, it becomes a more democratic exercise. Not just because nga you're the wealthiest, does not necessarily mean you should win. No? Although in the US, I don't know how...
Because
pero dito sa atin,
Yeah.
United.
makikita nyo naman na I don't think President Duterte was able to raise the most money, and yet he was
Yes.
able to win because I think he was able to use his resources better, and I think he had popular support. He was also able to use social media in a very efficient way. So, to me, I think what's important is that we set a realistic cap and allow, and also maybe yung cap also on the amount that a donor can donate to a campaign.
Okay.
Wow, ang bilis ng
Yes, we
panahon
have 7 minutes
Oh.
left.
We have a little game, Chair Andy, baka we can, this is really just to get more questions in, no? So, Time, maybe you can explain.
Okay, so it's been a while since we played this game because, it's last week we had Edgar Matobato and we didn't play this game with him. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Maybe. Basically, we will give you 10 issues or suggestions that are floating around right now, making the headlines in our papers. And you would have to reply if you think it is a good idea or a bad idea. You can say maybe, but only once. Parang yun yung safety mo. Okay, so let's start. You can explain your answers after we're done with the 10 items, if we have time. Okay, so number 1 is charter change.
Good.
Okay, good idea. Number 2 is UN's Agnes Calamar visiting the Philippines.
Good.
Meryl Streep's speech at the Golden Globes.
Good.
MMFF snubbing so-called commercial films.
Bad.
Okay. Proposed defense agreement with Russia.
Maybe.
Okay, you used up the maybe. 1,000 peso increase in pension of SSS members.
Good.
Mocha Uson as MTRCB board member.
Good.
U.S. Electoral College.
Bad.
Free tuition for college students.
Good.
Expanded power and scope of the Presidential Commission on Good Government.
Good.
Okay, so we have 5 more minutes. Would you like to explain some of your answers?
Which ones?
But maybe Electoral College, why is it
Yeah.
a bad idea?
You know, well, here's the problem. No? In the U.S., as we know, Secretary Clinton, Senator Clinton, won the popular vote,
Almost 3 million more.
about 3 million, and yet it's President-elect Trump. No? So I think they have to be able to calibrate to make sure that the population corresponds to the number of electors in the Electoral College. But again, this is a device that they set up way back in
Yes.
1791, no, when the United States was trying to form its federal government. So to me, maybe it's time to change it.
Maybe in the Philippine setting, ang equivalent niyan would be a runoff election.
Which I believe in. Okay.
Yes. Do you think the Comelec can play a role in pushing that?
Well, again, no, if we're asked, kasi ang problema sa atin, we have a multi-party system. Unlike in the US, talagang it's just a dual party. Pagka dual party, hindi mo kailangan ng runoff. Pero pagka multi-party at walang nakakakuha ng majority vote, it makes sense to have a runoff because you want a leader who has not just a plurality but a majority vote. So if we will stick to a plurality, to a multi-party system, I think we should also introduce the concept of a runoff, which is practiced in many other countries in Europe and in Asia.
So yung runoff, yun yung you have many candidates, tapos the top 2 get to compete against each other.
That's right.
Maybe
And
1 or 2 weeks later.
That's correct.
Parang ganun. Ano. Chair, meron din tayong nanonood from North Cotabato, the Republic of North Cotabato. Bakibati naman sila.
Oy, mga kasama, kamusta po kayo dyan? Baka bumisita po kami dyan itong darating na Thursday. Well, we will be in Mindanao to consult with our regional officials in Mindanao.
Sir, how about yung PCGG? Yung answer.
Yes. Oh, we failed to say
Yeah,
that
we didn't include it
Chair
in the
Andy was
introduction.
also chair of PCGG.
That's correct. From September 2010 to April 2015.
Mhm.
So, well, alam niyo, ang problema ng PCGG is that, siyempre, it was created in 1986. It was the first law that was passed by then former President Aquino in order to try and get back ill-gotten wealth for the coffers of government. So, it's already 30 years old this year, no? To be honest, it has become more difficult to go after ill-gotten wealth because yung evidence nawawala na yung mga witnesses, nawawala na yung wealth because it's laundered, it's passed on. Yung paintings, for example, have been sold to other people and mga ganyan-ganyan. No? If ever you're going to expand though the powers of PCGG, I think it should also encompass other forms of ill-gotten wealth. But here the problem is it might have jurisdictional issues with the Office of the Ombudsman. Because remember that the PCGG was created specifically to go after the Marcos wealth, and that was in 1986. And then after that, there was the 1987 Constitution that was passed. And in that 87 Constitution, the Office of the Ombudsman was created really in order to combat graft and corruption in government. So pagka ill-gotten wealth, Marcos, but specifically though
PCG.
President Marcos, PCGG, but all other ill-gotten wealth through the Office of the Ombudsman.
Ang bilis talaga ng
Yeah.
oras eh. Maybe one last question, Chair Andy. Your term ends in is it 2022?
Yeah, February 2022.
And the
Unless I'm impeached.
and the next presidential election, according to our schedule, is May.
May 2022. And in
Wow.
fact, ito yung problema na I want to flag pa ngayon, no? Na, in fact, it's not just me, but two
To
other
other
members,
members,
no?
yeah.
So that there are 3 members of the commission whose terms will be expiring February 2022. And May 2022 is a presidential election year.
Yeah.
And mahalaga na you have a full commission that will be supervising and overseeing that election. So there has to be a fix, and it has to be a constitutional fix. Kasi kahit na mag-resign ako, o mag-resign yung aking mga kasama, kung sino man yung papalit sa amin, yung
We'll
term
just
nila
finish the
will only
term.
finish that term.
Oh, okay.
So really,
Okay.
again, if we're looking to amending the Constitution, maybe this is an amendment that they should also look into.
Does it have to be? Does it have to be constitutional amendment, or can it be a law?
Well, kasi nga yung term is fixed
The
by the
provision
Constitution.
is in the Constitution.
As though interpreted by the Supreme Court.
That is very interesting.
Yes.
But unfortunately, Tyne, we have to say goodbye.
Yeah, so thank you to everyone who watched us tonight. I hope you learned a lot of things about the Comelec and the rules that they want to amend. Who's next on the hot seat? Follow us on social media and on Twitter at @jnary_newsstand and at @ksabilio INQ.
And we'd like to thank you for watching, and also we'd like to thank Comelec Chair Andy Bautista for making time for this. This has been INQ&A. Thank you and good night.